So I am working on this painting, and what I'm doing is trying to decide how to figure out the color palette that I'm going to use for this painting. This is from, I believe it's Hitchcock's Vertigo. And the story in this picture is this woman is becoming another woman. So there's like a lot of psychological things going on in this movie, but what struck me about this painting was how there's all this color around her, and that she is basically turning into this black and white figure in the middle of all this color. So I was curious about that. It makes me interested. Now, when I look at our color palette, I try to look at what color is missing. And the color that really, to me, is the most missing in this painting is reds. Like there is no bright red. Um, the brightest red we have are here, and they look more brown. So they're more something like this rather than this. There are a lot of yellows, and they tend towards a warmer yellow rather than a cooler yellow. I also notice in the gray areas, there is a lot of purple. So when I look at this suit and I look at the floor, there's a strong sense of purple. So purple, this weird green, which is here, right? And it sort of stays within this triangle of colors and values. Now there's lighter colors outside of the color wheel, which is highest saturation. So those are colors that are beyond the color wheel. So these are the darker colors. So adding the complement or adding black. Once you pass the color wheel, you're adding white and you're getting tints. So I can see that pale green showing up here, which is a really beautiful counterpoint to these purples. The next thing I'm going to figure out is what I'm going to paint my first layer. And what I do usually is look for a midtone in the composition. And in this case, I found the woman's suit as being a midtone. So once I find my midtone, then I'm going to analyze that suit in color. And I would say that was a mixture of purple or violet and earth yellow, according to my color wheel. And I'm going to do that now. I'm going to mix purple and yellow, this yellow earth, together and mix this, and then add a little bit of white to get it lighter. Here I'm adding white to make the color a midtone value. Value scale. And I can already see it looks too dark. It looks closer to this one, but we're gonna just follow the process. And yeah, it's too dark. So we're gonna add a little more white. I'm going to put a little of this down right here. And that's getting better. It's getting closer. I'm gonna add one more little part of white to it. And this is comparing the source to the paint I mixed up, and I feel pretty good about it. So I'm ready to go. So now I'm ready to paint, and I want to paint the first layer in proportion to the reference. My reference is in preview, and I click this little box and it gives me customized scale and proportional information. I'm going to change it to 6, and automatically it readjusts the heights to the new proportion. So I'm going to measure out a box that's 6 by a little less than 4. Now I'm going to paint in the base layer with the color that we mixed up, and I'll wait for it to dry. After that layer has dried completely, I'm going to compare it to our mid-tone once again. Here's that image in black and white just to compare. It looks pretty good. Now I'm regridding the painting. Let's look at our first quadrant. Notice the darks around the floor. I'm going to paint those first. Instead of calling these black, I'm actually going to call them brown. So, and I'm going to keep my shadows. These are shadows areas. I'm keep them warm. So again, using brown rather than black or blue. So now I'm going to go for the light floor, and I have a little bit of my background. So I'm going to use that to help me mix that color. So I have, that's the purple. We know we're going to make our purple a little whiter. I'm going to put it right here, right where there's the brightest floor. I'm going to go into my dark oranges here. So I'm right here. And I'm going to use browns. So I'm using my iron oxide or my earth ochre. And I'm going to put these in. And then for a little bit of brightness right here, I'm going to add a little of our yellow. And I'm not going to green yellow, I'm going to orange yellow. So that oranger yellow. Again, I'm keeping with the idea of warm and cool. So I'm adding a little white to that orange to make it cooler and let the shadows go warm. The more I look at this, I really do want to push that rose in there. I think the rose is the correct color, even though I wouldn't have guessed it. The key is to get it the right value, which is it's very light. And then let's add this as well. Here. And then what I'm doing right now is I'm scumbling, which is usually you do it with a flat brush. So let me show you a scumble technique. So scumbling is you take a brush like this. And what I want to do is I want to lay some of this light on the floor without having to mix it. I want it to sit on the edge of the top of the paint layer. So what I do is I mix up my color that I want to scumble. And in this case, I'm going to scumble that rose. And I load up, this is called the belly of the brush. And I just touch the edge of it. Just to get a little bit of the brightness on the floor. And I can also see almost a diagonal line, like look at this diagonal line of light that's passing between there. It's almost like an X. Okay, so this is there's a lot of stuff going on here, but since we know what these are, we've already painted these. So they come from the bottom. So this area is actually going to be the same color as that. And then we're going to come up from this yellow bouquet from this area and just move it upwards. So I started painting that with that yellow earth. So I'm going to continue. Again, it's browner with maybe a little rose in it. All right, so we're going to start with the jacket. Remember how we did that? We did a little white and the color of the background plus a little bit more yellow. We're going to look at the final quadrant, and I'm going to really focus on the boxes that are in the front. I'm going to use that light green from our Hemi palette. And there are definitely parts that are lighter and darker, so I'm going to just use some white to lighten this edge. And there's a bunch of things I'd want to do. So let's just look at the whole for a second to get a sense of it and the values of it and the color of it to see if I'm on the right track. And I can definitely tell that certain things need to be lighter, but I'm definitely on the right track. And I would like to get in there and do more. These are the two images. The reference is on the left and the painting is on the right. And what I want you to take away from this is the light areas are cooler and the areas that are in the shadow are warmer. So if you notice this area where the plants are in the shadow over on the right, those are warmer colors, and that corresponds to the reference. However, if you look at those plants that are in the light, which are over here, those are much cooler colors. And I'm using the lemon yellow from our palette to make those colors cooler.